to our presentation on dinner conversations with an exclamation mark. We're happy to be here to share this important information with you. So among the most lasting and powerful traditions in family life is one that seems to have more influence than almost any other, and that's the family meal. So when you think about your family meals, you may recall your favorite family experience, such as weekly Sunday meals or family mealtime during the holidays or a Saturday morning breakfast with mom or dad. Why are these family meals so powerful? So over the past 25 years, research has shown what parents have known for a long time, that sharing a fun family meal is good for the spirit, the brain, and the health of all family members. Sharing a family meal provides an experience that touches all of our senses. It's sight, it's touch, it's taste, it's smell, and it's listening to warm laughter or good conversation. And it's often the one time of day that we have conversations without any outside interruption. Despite family meals being hugely beneficial to kids, only about 30% of families manage to eat together regularly. So certainly dinner time has changed from maybe when you were growing up to what it is now. We no longer dress for dinner or follow etiquette rules from long ago, unless it's a very, very special occasion, such as a wedding. So family dinner has always been thought of as a time to gather, but our technology has definitely overtaken the importance of this event. We have fast foods and microwaves mean that we can cook meals in seconds and keep watching TV or looking at our phones at the same time. We can even watch TV on our phones when it comes right down to it. Also, fast food's rise in popularity means that many meals may be eaten in the car on the way to another event. So it's convenient in our busy lives, but does not lead to the benefits of eating a meal together. We're going to watch this great clip from, if any of you remember, Saturday Night Fever with John Travolta, where they're sharing a meal. And while watching this, kind of listen for a family rule that they make in the actual process of this dinner. And also, just to set the scene, if you've not seen the movie, John Travolta is having dinner before going out for the evening dancing. So he's wearing a bib, or as Jackie says, it's a sheet to protect his new shirt. And even though there's a lot of emotions going on, there's also conversations and topics that are being discussed. Dad's out of work, there's jealousy between siblings. So just kind of take a moment and listen to this family dinner.
Every day is the same thing. I come home, you tell me I'm late for dinner, and you know that I gotta work till 6 o'clock and I can't make dinner in time.
You should have been a priest like your brother. You wouldn't worry about a job.
Yeah.
Every time you mention Frank Jr., you gotta cross yourself.
He's a priest, ain't he? Father Frank Jr., your brother.
Your mother doesn't have too much to cross herself about these days.
You're so jealous of Frank Jr.
Oh, shut up, will you? Hey, the shirt, wash the shirt, stupid.
Oh, come on. Basta! All right, come on. Mangia, mangia. Eat. Go ahead. Eat. I got more pork chops, more spaghetti.
What do you mean you got more pork chops? I'm out of work.
Yeah, well, as long as we got $1 left, we eat good in this house.
What?
Yeah, I might even get a job myself.
Like hell you will. 25 years in construction work, I always brought him a paycheck. What, 6, 7 months I'm out of work? And all of a sudden, what? You hit me. And talking back.
All right.
Talking about getting a job and hitting me.
All right. No hitting, no slapping at the dinner table. Okay, that's the rule. And you was the one who hit me.
You never hit me before. Never. Not in front of the kids. One pork chop! One!
Hey, Frank!
It's disgusting, right? Sick. We just wash the hair.
Yeah.
You know, I work on my hair a long time, and you hit it. He hits my hair.
Take care of his hair. I'm gonna take a walk.
Don't you walk me to church later?
Didn't you go already today?
Yeah, confession. I gotta go back and pray for something.
For what?
I gotta pray for Father Frank Jr. to call me.
Why don't you call him direct?
I want him to call me. A son should call his mother.
Wait a minute. You going to church to have God make Frank Jr. call you?
Right.
Unbelievable. You know, you're turning God into a telephone operator.
The new family rule is no hitting or slapping at the dinner table, which is a really sad rule, but a lot of emotions going on there, a lot of actual conversations, although, you know, pretty emotional and heated. So let's go to the next slide and just talk a little bit about what shared meals can lead to. And for those of you that are feeling exhausted about cooking and cleaning and planning of what seems like a million meals, there is good news. It's really not about the meals itself, but about eating together and the conversation and the connections made. So shared meals can lead to lower rates of depression and anxiety, fewer eating disorders for youth, healthier diets, increased cardiovascular health, increased communication skills, and stronger relationships. In other words, the sharing of food with others is beneficial for your physical and mental health. Most parents already know that family meals are great for the bodies and the brains and the mental health of children. More than 2 decades of studies reveal that kids who eat with their families do better in school and have bigger vocabularies. They also have lower rates of depression, anxiety, and eating disorders, as well as healthier diets. So what may come as unexpected news to tired parents is that these same shared meals are also good for adults across the lifespan, from young people eating with toddlers to parents talking with school-age kids, Medicare eligible adults eating with younger generations. Shared meals are associated with healthier eating, better moods, and stronger relationships. For adults, both with or without children, there are even numerous health benefits to eating with others. Even unrelated adults, if you think like firefighters who share meals, they have enhanced performance when they cook and eat together as they wait for that call to come in. So remembering that mealtime leads to conversation, which leads to stronger connections, which are beneficial to all ages. So in her 2006 book, it's called The Surprising Power of Family Meals, author Miriam Weinstein asked this question: what if I told you that there was a magic bullet, something that would improve the quality of your daily life, your children's chances of success in the world, and your family's health? Something that is inexpensive, simple to produce, and within the reach of pretty much everyone. You guessed it, the answer is family meals. So let's look at some of these statistics that she's referring to. There was a significant study on the relationship between certain family characteristics and adolescent problem behaviors, published in the Journal of Adolescent Health, found that teens who have infrequent family dinners, so that would be fewer than 3 a week together, are 3.5 times more likely to have abused prescription drugs or to have used illegal drugs other than marijuana. They're also 3 times more likely to have used marijuana and 2.5 times as likely to use tobacco and 1.5 times likely to have used alcohol. So really, the family meal does sound more like a magic bullet the more and more you look into it, and the benefits of something so simple are so powerful. So parents who regularly dined with their kids reported higher levels of family functioning, greater self-esteem, and lower levels of depressive symptoms and stress. And mental health benefits don't depend on a slow roasted beef roast or organic veggies, since it's the atmosphere at the dinner table that contribute most significantly to the emotional well-being. Takeout or prepared food eaten at home will work just as well. Mealtime is a time to slow down as well. So what about benefits to adults? Let's talk about this for a minute. The family meal times is the most reliable time of the day for adults to slow down and talk to others. It's a time to step away from work, email, chores, that to-do list, and instead connect face to face. Dinner time often allows for a few laughs, a time to decompress, and also to solve logical problems and talk about the day's events and what tomorrow holds. It's time to connect with loved ones and to reflect on the day. For those older couples, it's really healthy to turn off the TV news and just focus on being present on the meal and with each other's company. And it's time to reconnect after the day's events. What do you say if you're retired and you see each other all day long? Well, how about using this time to explore events deeper into what interests and opinions your partner may have about current events or books you're reading or plans for bucket lists or trips? There's even some great books available that you can get that have suggestions on conversation starters. So you might be surprised at the answer. It's important just to keep that spark alive with couples that are retired. And Jackie is going to take over from this point.
Thanks, Nancy.
Mhm.
So we're going to run through the steps now, things that you can do and try. So it's really one thing is to find the time to sit down as a family meal, because we know that can be a challenge in today's society. We're running all the time, right? No matter the size of our family or the age, that's one thing that doesn't seem to change. We want to remind you that in the past year and a half, with all the challenges and things that have been going on in our society and around, it might be a good time for you to really take this opportunity to make family meal times routine, right? So this is that opportunity to say, yep, we're going to make this important, and this is something we really want to stick to. So, whether it is setting time aside for breakfast or lunch or dinner, it really just gives you that opportunity and creates a time for families to come together and share in those conversations that Nancy was talking about. And especially, research tells us that during difficult times, it can be especially important to keep the lines of communication open, especially when we're talking with our family members. And it also allows you to touch base, right? So you can check in on each other and see how everybody is doing. And again, during difficult times, we know that that is really, really important, especially for our mental health. The first step is to make family mealtimes routine. So remember, as Nancy said, it's about the connections and not necessarily the food. So make it, a routine to start, the meal with a conversation, such as, what was the best part of your day? What was the worst part of your day? Or maybe share something that you're thankful for. So, start every meal with a gratitude. And also remember, it doesn't have to be every meal of every day, right? So just make sure it's realistic for your life, and then choose what works for you. And then again, make those meal times a priority and really set it in. I'll give a quick example. I have two teenagers, almost not 16 and 20. And when my kids got old enough and kind of hit the teenage years, my friends were like, you still get up with your kids in the morning? You still make breakfast and have breakfast with your kids? And I'm like, oh, it is vital, especially with a teenage girl. I'm just going to tell you, folks, not as much with my son, but with my teenage daughter, vital to sit down. It wasn't even about the food. I had a cup of coffee and she ate her bowl of cereal, but it was, what's on your agenda for the day? What's the schedule? What are you nervous about? Do you have any tests? Do you want to run through it? And it really wasn't like, and as she got older into high school, it really was a 5-10 minute thing. But on the days when she didn't have that and we didn't do it, if I left early, she would literally say, oh, Mom, I had the worst day. Because it was really about just touching base, checking in, and for her, getting it out of her mouth. And once she said it and got it out, that was kind of like smooth sailing. She was able to go, okay, off. So again, it's, find what works for you, find what works for your family. And it could be one day a week. So, it could be breakfast. It could be, Friday night fish fry. It could be Taco Tuesdays, maybe it's just on Sundays and you have a big family meal. So again, it's not necessarily about the food, as Nancy said, it's about, really getting together. So the next step is really, try to limit those distractions. So, one of the rules we have in our house is, technology-free meal. So no tablets, no phones, no TV. Sometimes we will do music. One of the questions that we often ask in our family is, we'll do favorite, whatever. So what's your favorite classic 80s, rock song? What's your, favorite this? And then, we will allow, to pick up a phone and then search it and then they play it for everybody because, the kids aren't necessarily on the same level as we are, so they'll go, oh yeah, I know that. That's a great song. But otherwise, we do really encourage you to limit the technology. And a lot of times we think, oh, it's going to be the kids. A lot of times it's the adults that, we get in this habit of picking up a phone, checking. So yeah, really try to limit those distractions so that you have the ability to have more one-on-one conversations. And again, remember the goal is to have connections. And sometimes it's really, really hard if the person is just literally picking up their phone and looking at their phone every 2 seconds, right? So, and I've been with enough, both teens and adults, well, I'm checking the weather, or I have to see this, or I, work, I need to check. Nope, really, just, and even if you say, give me 10 minutes, right? Let's just do 10 minutes of technology free, and then we can move on. And same thing, even with the evening news. If you're interrupted by the evening news, say, let's schedule meals around that. So we're not, having that on. I don't know about you guys, but not even just COVID related, but politics and world events and the weather. It's daunting, right? Like we've had a heck of a year. And so sometimes even just having that on in the background and hearing it brings everybody's mood down. So again, try to have that technology free. Even in the other room, try to turn it off and limit those distractions so we can build those connections. That's really important. Next, Heather. Thanks. So the thing is, as Nancy mentioned, it's really about communication, right? So family meals are, they create a time for everyone to meet and talk about their day, their feelings, their thoughts. It's also an opportunity to share those stories, for each person in the family. So even, and Nancy had said, it's the whole age gamut, right? So we can have a 2-year-old telling you, their favorite toy, and then we can have, an adult saying something that they struggled with today or missed. So it really is also about those other kind of nonverbal things. So it's a great opportunity for kids to practice things like manners, listening, taking turns, and even those strong listening skills, summarizing. So what I think I hear you say is, right, everyone can use improved communication. So family mealtimes is a great time to practice some of that. We encourage you to let everyone have an opportunity to share. So as Nancy mentioned, things like conversation starters are great because it allows everybody to answer a question. So I encourage you to ask the questions though that encourage a positive conversation, right? So we can have some difficult stuff, but try to end like on a positive note and get everybody a chance to do that. So also, start your conversations with things like, how, what, why, open-ended questions to encourage more conversation versus yes or no. Because if we answer a yes or no, or ask an answer yes or no question, that's the answer we're going to get and it's going to be done. So really important that you ask the open-ended questions so they have an opportunity to kind of keep going. Also try to limit like lecture, right? So if you're one of those people, don't get on the the soapbox and try to just talk, because everybody will shut down. So, it really isn't about, talking about what, whatever you're really passionate about. Probably not the time for that. And also probably not the time for discipline either. So if you still have young children, not the time to do that either. Again, it's really about bonding, having conversations, and building those connections between each other. So next slide. So one of the things that we encourage is, healthy conversation starters. So really kind of hone in on some of those questions. As Nancy said, you can get books that actually have conversation starters. Everyone today, you're actually going to get mailed. In the mail, we have this little slide deck. Oh, I can't see, sorry, blurry. But they say they're mail conversation starters. And it's just a variety of questions. Like, tell a joke you think that'll make everybody laugh. Or, if you can spend a whole day with someone, who would it be and what would you do? So there's just a variety of things. And sometimes at all stages of our life, whether it's with children or, as we age, we stumble, right? And especially if we get caught in our head, it's hard to have those conversations. So something like a conversation starter is fantastic because it prompts you. And then you can kind of just keep going. So, things like, again, best part of your day, worst part of your day. What was your favorite part of your meal, or what is your favorite meal? If you could have anything, what would it be? I talked about gratitude. What's something that you're thankful for today? So yeah, just kind of there's the endless possibilities of questions that you can ask, but it's really important to do this and have prompts, especially if you're stagnant with conversation or there's tensions. So, as funny as Nancy's video was, it's very true, right? We have that. We have tensions that go on. And again, I said we've had kind of a rough year. So, it might be hard. So having something to prompt you is fantastic and it goes really well. So does anybody use conversation starters? Are there things that you use in your families? Like I said, we've historically used best part, worst part of your day. What are some that you guys use? What did you learn in school today? Yep. Tell me about your day. What is something new you learned today? Yeah. And the thing is, I think that works even for adults, right? We're always learning. Or what's something that surprises you today? Yep. How was recess? Absolutely. So, know that this is not just for kids too, it's for everybody. So, I know we have talked a lot about the benefits to youth, but it is beneficial to everybody across the board. So yeah, fantastic. So, just kind of keep that in mind that if you don't have one that you always start off with, like I said, you'll get these in the mail, but there are different benefits to pulling one up and just kind of going with it. And you might not want to on some days, but other days it's really good to have something to kind of start with. So, there are many important reasons to eat family meals together. We didn't talk a lot about the nutritional benefits, but there are nutritional benefits. And then again, it's really a lot about building those healthy communication skills and having good conversations. So just like with anything else, it does take practice, and practice does make perfect. So if you currently don't sit down and have any meals together, try, having one meal a day and then work from there, right? Or one meal a week and then work from there. And as we've said multiple times, it's not necessarily about the food. It really is more about being together and building those communication skills and having those conversations. Next slide. So one of the tools that I really, really, really like, and again, this goes for across the board. So whether it is working with younger children or especially with adults, I find this works really well. It's called script talking, and there's 3 components. So it's CIS. So the first one is C, and that stands for circle update. So this is, what's new within your circle, right? So as some of you shared in the chat, with little kids, it might be, how was school today? What happened at recess, right? Those are both great examples of what's happening in your child's circle. If it's you and your spouse, again, it might be, a friend, a family member, someone, someone that works with you, what happened today? What's new in your circle? It's a great way to start. And it's something that everybody can have a piece of because everybody has a circle, right? So it's just within your inner life, it works out really, really well. So again, and it's also an opportunity for you to share and work on those listening skills, right? So, an example of effective listening might be something like, thanks for sharing that. That's too bad. Awesome, way to go. But ineffective listening would be, oh, you shouldn't have done that. You should have done this, right? Anybody heard that in their meal times? Or, oh, why did you do that? Right? So we're shutting down the conversation. So I encourage you to use those good listening skills and feedback and summarizing. And again, try to keep it on a positive. I stands for me or myself or I. And so it really is, what's new with me, right? So, what happened in your life? What's something that happened to you today? Your job, your work, the dinner you made, maybe, your roof is leaking. You discovered that, like, what's happening again in your world. So this one is a little bit harder than the first one because in our circle, we're talking about others. When we get to I, we're talking about us, right? It's personal, it's me. So sometimes, we find that it's easier to talk about others than it is to talk about ourselves. So this is, again, that opportunity, especially when times are tough, to do that personal check-in, but it does require a level of trust so that whether you're talking about with your spouse or with your children, for them to be open and honest and say something that's happening about themselves with you. So the final component is the S. And again, we get heavier as we go, right? So we start off really light with C. And by the time we get to S, as to something I've been struggling with, right? So this is that idea of, what is keeping you up at night? This section is, most adults find most difficult, but then also most important, right? It's here where you'll need to get real and then share something that's been challenging you or even something that's been upsetting you. So it's truly a gift when a family member is able to share something personal so that, the listener can give even more of a precious gift back to them, which is empathetic listening, right? And listening without judgment. So again, an idea of how this would be effective and doing it in a positive listening way, sounds like this has been really tough on you. That does seem like a really difficult conversation. It sounds like you're really trying, very hard to figure this out, right? So those are positive ways that you can, even when someone's sharing something very difficult, how you can respond. Ineffective listening in this, this instance would be things like, oh, don't be sad about that. That's not a big deal. What you really should do is blank. That really doesn't sound that bad to me. My day was a lot worse. Anyone have any of those? You hear any of those conversations, right? So yeah, absolutely. So again, remember as we move through CIS, it gets more difficult because we start with others and then it's us and then it's something that we're really struggling with. But again, this is also something you can use with your employees or other staff. You can use this at a staff meeting, again, because it's opening up about what really is, what's happening and what's real in your world. And so it's a great way to move into conversation. Okay, there you go. So remember, it really, again, is about the conversation and the connections you make and not necessarily about the food. So, in conclusion, we really want you to try what works for you, what works for your family, what works for, even if you're gathering with, again, coworkers or colleagues. And it doesn't have to be daily. It may not even be occasionally, but it's about the quantity, not necessarily the quantity, but the quality of the conversations and making those connections. So find what works for you, find a time that works for you, find, like I said, it might even be a theme like Taco Tuesday or Friday Night Fish, but it really is about the idea of sitting down together and making those connections. So one of the resources we wanted to share with you is called the Family Dinner Project. So you can actually go to familydinnerproject.org. And they also have, as I mentioned, some of those conversation starters, they actually have sheets of them that you can print out, conversation starters. So if you're looking for some, they also have some, some meal ideas, some fun activities that you can do at mealtime. So a variety of things. They also have a lot of the research that Nancy shared. That's all on here too. So if this is something that you'd like to share with others in your life, you're like, oh yeah, I want to share this with, other people, this is where you go. So all of that information is right on here. And again, it's all one word, thefamilydinnerproject.org. But great resource. So I encourage you to check that out, especially if you're looking for some of those conversation starters. They have great conversation starters. And yeah, so lastly, a few of the other resources that we used for today that I encourage you, if you want more information, to go out. There's also the Family Meals Movement. There's also an article that comes from Berkeley, UC Berkeley, on the greater good of family mealtimes. And then the last one is actually a study that talks about even, again, we talked about, it's not about the food. So, even if you're using frozen meals, it's about that idea of sitting down together. So no matter how you do it, it's just the idea of doing something, finding what works for your family, and then again, working really hard on building those connections and that communication. And I will pause there. Do you guys have questions? So like I said, everyone that is registered for today, we will be mailing out the family conversation starters. So you'll get that as kind of a door prize for coming today. And I encourage you as you go through, they're different categories. So they do fit for different ages. So we do have them set as, things that you can do with, toddlers, kids, teens, and then full family or just adults. So they all work, but you might find some that are, maybe even if it was just you and your spouse sitting down. I just looked to one that's for a toddler. It says, What is your favorite animal? If you could be an animal for a day, what would it be? We've used this one, and I'm surprised every time I ask my husband this question. So know that they're good for everybody. But again, some are silly and fun, and some are a little bit more in depth. But if you find one, you open one, and you're like, yeah, we're not into silly today. Then flip to another one. Or if it's been a really heavy, rough day, you might need silly, right? So yeah, just kind of flip through. One of the things we also do is we pass the deck around, and everybody can choose. Every day they get to pick one. So it's not the same person picking the question for the day. So that's something you can also assign. The days of the week gets to be a different person, or who gets to actually pick the question for the day. So that works too.
I'd like to thank you both, Jackie and Nancy, for speaking with us today. And I think have given us some really great ideas for conversation starters. Different things. I know for myself, when you were speaking, I try to talk to our son, and I sometimes feel like I don't leave enough time, and I want to answer the question for him. Like, oh, how was school today? And oh, so was it good? I mean, you had this, and I've really been working at that, because I remember reading things about this before. I think on one of the winter Heart of the Farm program series, when we talked about family time and just having that conversation with your children. So I appreciate all this. And here you can all see on our screen, there's the website, the Heart of the Farm website. This was our last coffee chat for the summer, and we will be looking at starting this up again later in the fall or through the winter, and probably be a Zoom format like we've been doing. Maybe we will be able to do it in person. Not quite sure as we watch how the pandemic plays out, though. So if you do have any questions, you can contact your local extension office or Jenny Vanderlyn, and her information is here on this page as well.
Thanks, Ashley, for that wrap up. Yes, as she mentioned, we do hope to be hosting these coffee chats later in the fall. So be sure to look at the website, and also we have a Facebook page that we will be doing some blasts on that in the future as well. All the resources and the video will be on the Heart of the Farm website, and we will do a link on that with the Facebook. I would expect that to be the video to be up sometime this week, hopefully by the end of the week, and then the resources will also be up on the website for that too. I do hope that you all enjoyed it. I know that I actually am looking forward to using some of the conversation starters. I think that's great. You always kind of need an idea, like gets a little boring always going, well, how was your day? So it's kind of nice to have a few conversation starters there. So with that, if there isn't any other questions or comments, I just kind of open that up for a few minutes. Otherwise, we can call it a day and get on with our Monday morning. I do thank Nancy and Jackie very, very much for taking the time to kind of renew that dinner conversation, and Ashley for moderating this as well.